Thank you. This is a Financial Policy Council podcast series, and I'm very pleased to be here with Eric Celidonio, who strangely I've known for about 45 years, and I'm not that old. I've known him almost my entire life, and it's been my pleasure to see him grow and to do the things that he's done with his life. He's very successful, and you'll hear a little bit about that today, and I'm very thankful that you agreed to do this podcast. Thank you so much, Eric.
Thank you for inviting me, Marty. It's great to reconnect with you here.
You're very welcome. Okay. Question 1. Eric, as the founder and senior managing partner of SciBio, you have a unique vantage point across the national biotech and tech employment landscape. What macro-level trends are you observing in hiring across life sciences and applied technology, and how are those trends shaping the economic futures of everyday Americans?
Well, in general, I think we're seeing the convergence of AI and employment slowing, among other things that are creating some headwinds for the labor force. I think recent job numbers show that things are sort of leveling out. We were at really an all-time low in unemployment, but that seems to have started to trend upward. And I think if you look at the real statistics around unemployment and you factor in the non-living wage jobs, which there are many, there's up to 3 times the amount of unemployment that's really being stated by the BLS. So that could be as high as even 10 or 12% off of the stated 4.1%. I don't think that current economic policy is supporting this. I think that some of the reshoring efforts that may happen could eventually manifest in jobs, but in short term, I think there could be more job losses. It's a difficult situation, I think, for people who had been enjoying a relatively stable and almost competitive job market. It's really changed full course over the last, I would say, 6 months. So that's what I'm seeing.
Okay. So your suggestion is that, number one, the job market is trending downward and there are more need, but yet the job availability isn't really there for folks. And number two, you're suggesting that perhaps there are policies that are not in place to protect the growth of the job market in the United States right now.
I think they're trying to help protect jobs, but the inevitable, as I referenced before, AI is resulting in job losses. I mean, simple tasks that can be automated, robotics, automation, they're eliminating jobs that can be done routinely and without complexity, and that's been going on for a long time.
Sure.
But that's happening in an accelerated rate. After the great financial crisis or recession in 2008, we had a net loss of about 8 million jobs. And those jobs didn't really come back. I mean, there was probably 6 million that were created, but they didn't keep pace with the population growth. And so what we're seeing now is a lot of underemployed people. And many of these people are employed through the gig economy. And let's look at the gig economy for what it is. It can be, in some cases quite lucrative, but in most cases, no benefits, no 401k plan. So it's exceedingly difficult, especially for younger adults who are trying to enter the workforce, because many older adults aren't retiring. They simply can't. They don't have enough savings and or are not capable of doing it. They're supporting their family in some cases, their extended family, even their grandkids. So as I pointed out, I think this could get worse before it gets better. But we go through these cycles, and this is something that I think we inevitably have to go through until we see some improvement.
So Eric, what does the latest job report signal to you, not just in terms of employment rates, but in the deeper undercurrents of wage quality, skill relevance, and not just skill relevance, but as well as the disconnect between available talent and open position?
All right, so that's a question I'll answer in a couple parts. The latest jobs report comes out this Friday.
I didn't ask you to predict the future. I mean, based on the one previous. Yes.
Boy, if I could predict the future, I don't think I'd be sitting here. I think I'd be some real estate or a Wall Street tycoon. The jobs report that comes out tomorrow is expected to be weaker. What you've seen over the past year is that the previous jobs report released by the BLS have been revised downward routinely. So what seemed like rosy numbers have been revised downward almost every month. And then you're seeing an uptick in unemployment. So the number of new jobs created and the increase in unemployment are kind of indicating that we have a cracking economy. This is probably the one thing keeping us from a recession. But as of now, this could be the thing that breaks the camel's back. So a lot of people have been predicting a recession, but once the labor market cracks, that's when the recession will happen. You asked,
but to clarify, you're suggesting that there are plenty of folks that are educated and have skills, and it's not just that they can't get matched with jobs. It's that the unemployment is a different discussion to say that you have open positions
right.
don't have the people to fill them. You're saying the opposite. You have plenty of folks that are educated and the positions are being cut and don't exist.
Yes, I think that both can be true, right? So there are a lot of jobs that are open that aren't getting filled because we don't have the right trained people to fill them. And then I think what we've seen more recently is a little bit of a white collar recession. So you're seeing people in sort of office jobs and, roles that would work in traditional sort of white collar contexts being laid off, where you're seeing blue collar jobs, and we're talking nursing, construction, welders, they're doing quite well. And that's the opposite of what happened in the great financial, in the recession of 2008. So yes, there's definitely plenty of jobs, but we don't have enough trained people to take many of these jobs. So yeah, it's a little bit of an issue on both sides because these jobs are basically going unfilled.
Okay. So many of our viewers are early stage entrepreneurs, not necessarily at the stage that you're at, and they're self-starters. From your experience, what hiring or talent development strategies can actually small and mid-sized businesses use immediately to attract high-performing professionals without necessarily being using and bloating all their overhead or having too high of an overhead?
Yeah, that you could spend an hour on that topic. I mean, if I kind of gloss over it with an answer, it's probably something to the effect of, use the Warren Buffett strategy of hire smart people who are energetic and have integrity. That sort of approach never
Integrity,
fails.
is that important? Is that an important aspect?
And Warren said it best. He goes, and if they don't have the latter, don't bother because the other two will never work out.
Yep.
So, yeah, I mean, entrepreneurial, a lot of people taking entrepreneurial paths, and I think it's a noble one. But the problem with it is that, it's a difficult gauntlet to be successful as an entrepreneur and to scale. I mean, a lot of people can make it as sort of the gig, kind of leader of what they do, but to scale it to a business where it goes beyond you. And
Did you have challenges doing that with your business?
Yes, it's a universal challenge, and most people never break that. They never get past that, so they're never able to scale their business. I'm still building succession plans within my business, but it takes a long time to build that knowledge and trust and experience, frankly. So, yeah, I mean, honestly, I wish I could give you a quick answer to how to develop talent to get to for small businesses, but it's a very deep topic that could probably.
Even what do you do yourself to kind of keep yourself driven and motivated to get past those challenges in scaling and to go up against these large corporations that kind of engulf and squeeze out life in the marketplace? Like, how do you survive?
I would say you have to have a point of specialization that you do better than your larger competitors. That's key to success.
Is that more personalized?
It can be
one-on-one.
It can be. I mean, in my case, we hire science. Our job is to hire for high, life science companies and innovative biopharmas that require very specialized skill sets. So I hired scientists as recruiters and people with science backgrounds as recruiters. So we have that
So they
edge.
speak the language of the people they're trying to
They
place.
speak the language. They understand the business. We've invested heavily in developing them to be as good or better than any other firm. So it's one of those things where you really do have to invest in that individual, not just hire well and hope they get there. And I think that's where a lot of companies make the mistake, because that's time consuming. I mean, investing in development is time consuming, and what if they leave, right? So you have to make it a place that is really sticky. I'll use that as a word, right? You want people to feel like they want to be there.
And if someone were to ask you, is it because you spend a lot of time developing your team, your core team of folks that you rely on for recruiting, to have that background, the skill set, and be able to speak the language as well as treat the customer the way that you would want, almost as an extension of yourself? Has that helped your success? Is that
I would say that was what founded the company, but luckily, as and this is the great part about hiring great talent, they can add more depth to that. So if you hire people who understand what you're trying to do and can add, kind of dimensional depth to that, you're building on something that's great. Now you're off to something that can really scale. And so that's what I've tried to do. I don't want to say that, our best days are still in front of us right now. I don't want to say that we've sort of cornered the market or anything. We're one of many companies that do what we do, but I think we do it incredibly well.
Right.
And it's a fiercely competitive segment that we're in. So yes, hire well, treat people treat them as if they're family, and invest in them heavily, and give them the compensation so they never want to leave.
Yeah, I mean, we have a mutual friend who was disregarded despite his amazing skill set and 18 years of service, just because of cheaper labor and ways to sort of outsource to other countries. So certainly, what you're saying holds real true for good longevity and success in the company.
Well, I think, and we could talk about him, obviously we're not going to mention his name, but I mean, private equity is buying a lot of smaller companies and sort of retooling them to be more profitable, scaling down in their workforce. And that's one of the other trends.
Ruining lives to save a buck.
Yeah. I mean,
and that's not what you do.
Some people might call it soulless. It is part of the American dream, I guess, but it is definitely a real trend. And you're seeing, actually, there's millions of small businesses now that will not go on. And at least there are, we'll say it's mostly not private equity, but there are investors who are willing to buy these businesses and succeed them, because, they very successful dry cleaning or plumbing outfit. And it sounds very boring, but they're actually quite lucrative businesses.
I mean, small pornography as well. That also
yes, that could work too, if you have the right endowments.
We'll put that to the side. It's not really the meat and potatoes of what we want to talk about. So, Eric, not to change subjects, but you mentioned that the ROI on many college degrees has declined. So basically, people aren't graduating to be in the intellect that you would expect. How should future job seekers and their families rethink education as an investment? And what alternative paths to career successes are emerging that our audience should actually seriously consider?
I would absolutely assess the viability of my major to give me gainful employment, and I would do that before I enrolled in college. Period. A college degree is not worth what it was. There's not as much scarcity around it. And honestly, for many years, what we've seen is a divergence from the trades to higher ed. And now we see a lack of people in applied, hands-on trades. And so your average, I mentioned, this is the second time I'll mention a plumber, they probably make more than the white-collar executive because of the need for their skills.
Their scarcity.
And relative scarcity, because everybody who owns a home needs plumbing. So I mean, think about that. Like, everybody flocked to getting the sort of BS in economics, and often that's what economics is, BS. But like,
we're going to quote you on that.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Yep. No problem.
Pseudoscience. We should be cranking out more electricians, plumbers, nurses, what have you. And I mean, I would say that goes all the way up to like nurse practitioners and physician's assistant. I mean, these certification type disciplines are very lucrative, and that's
Right.
where you can be gainfully employed.
But I think, to pause and to go back to what we were saying, that return on investment for education, what you're also suggesting, and correct me if I'm wrong, is that those graduates that come out don't have the life skills or the capacity to be successful in the workforce as some previous generations have been. And why do you think that is?
That's true, but I think that's always been the case. I just think that, for whatever reason, most university professors and faculty, many of them never made it, and they couldn't really teach you how to make it. They give you the theory, and you have to just apply that theory. So yes, that's true, but I don't think that's any different from the past, personally.
Yeah.
In my experience.
So we're in kind of an interesting age, right? Because no one knows whether should they go to school, should they go get their PhD in something, should they do this, should they go whatever. So you've got all this unsure path, and all folks are kind of uncertain as to where things are headed. So what do you recommend? I mean, do you recommend people pick a trade, or do you recommend
No,
that
no.
people at least understand where they need to go and pick schools that also give you life skills to be successful in the job market? And also, from the entrepreneurial piece, what can you give back, or what can you share in regard to, do I go to school? Do I go work for the man? Do I do something myself? What do you do in 2025?
I would be very introspective about what I'm good at. I would do a self-analysis on what I know I'm good at and what I can add to society, and I would use that as my sort of guidepost. And if you haven't done that, before you decide to enroll in any even college course, understand what it is that you're good at, naturally good at, and enjoy, right? It doesn't have to be your passion. I think
Right.
that's trite and often doesn't work. But you have to know what you're good at and what you're naturally inclined to do. And then you sort of point yourself in that direction. And it could be a trade, and there's nothing wrong with that. And that
Right.
trade might actually eventually lead you to, a 4-year degree, or who knows. But the bottom line is, you have to start there. Don't start with what someone else tells you to do, or what you think is the most lucrative, hot thing to do. That will almost certainly always fail. You have to start with what you're naturally good at. And if you're good at talking to people, maybe it's sales. If you're good at solving problems analytically, it could be some computer or IT discipline. If you're good at making things, a tinkerer, as you know I am.
You are a tinkerer.
I am. I enjoy
When
it.
you can't find Eric, he's
I'm
putting
tinkering
something
in my
together,
barn.
he's tinkering or something in his barn. Yeah.
Yes. And, so you have to follow that of your sort of natural inclinations. And when you go against that, I think that's when you tend to make mistakes. Now, blending disciplines, this is the key, right? I think that, going into a pure discipline is a mistake. It's the magic is when you're applying disciplines, right? Because, it's hard to be the fastest runner or, the strongest power lifter. But you could be, I'm using that as a sports example. But when you can blend disciplines so that, you're like, say, the comic that knows DC politics, and you are, get the right sort of sass, you can draw a crowd
You're
that can,
well liked, and you can
yeah.
figure, yeah, right.
So you have to find that, but it has to be natural. It can't be feigned or faked. It's got to sort of come natural. But
So you're saying it's a combination, and I don't mean to put words in your mouth, so you correct me, of really good introspection, understanding who you are, really understanding what your identity is as a human being, then confidence, and on top of that, educating yourself on where the opportunities are, and then taking risks. Are you saying that, like, the combination of all that, that's how you make it?
you can take your risks when you're young, right? But yeah, I think because it's very difficult, and mistakes are pretty grave when you get older. Like, it's tough to recover from it. But absolutely what you said, and I would add into this, when you figure out what it is that you enjoy doing and you can make a living at, right? Let's be honest. We have to weigh these things out. Um, developing those, and this is where that multidisciplinary piece comes in, so that you're a little different than the other guy doing the same thing. I know we're talking general, and this doesn't always apply to things, but when you're the unique person, and this is where luck comes from, because if I'm going to use an example that I'd heard in the past. Let's say you're the undersea diver that knows how to weld a certain type of ship, and there's only 4 of you in the world. and there's a ship that's sunk and they need you to fix it, right? That you could call yourself lucky, but you're the only guy that did that. You've proven yourself with a skill set that's needed right now, and it's probably going to be insanely lucrative for you, right? So, that's where luck and skill sort of meet. And when you have that special skill set and you're one of the few people and you're really good at it, you're going to get the call and you're going to make something. And that's how my entrepreneurial path kind of got fostered. I knew I enjoyed talking to people. I knew science. I made drugs prior to getting into this. Yeah. So it just sort of coalesced.
Not in like a camper
legal drugs, legal.
Not in a trailer.
I made some of the first biologics drugs ever made.
Good to know.
So it was a trade, actually. I didn't realize it at the time, but that was like learning a trade. I mean, I'm knowing how to make these drugs, for instance.
Wow. So drug maker turned entrepreneur turned successful business owner.
Yes. That you said it. I'll agree.
We'll go with that. Next question, please. So you've built a national firm and a high trust, high stakes industry. What guiding principles or entrepreneurial frameworks helped you scale SciBio specifically, and how can others apply those principles to create wealth, especially in an economy that feels uncertain and way overregulated? Because that's a real problem today. People are just so afraid they can't make it. They can't go against these huge, corporations that just destroy the marketplace. What can you do?
Knowing what you're good at and applying it are two different things. And I, through many iterations of doing my job, got good at it. And when you're good at something, you don't have to sell it as hard. People will come to you. And frankly, you will find a path for yourself that you didn't even know existed, because you're creating, and I will say this, you play long-term games with long-term people. And what I mean by that is you affiliate yourself with high caliber people who have integrity and who have similar interests, not the same maybe, but similar. And you can invest in those, what I will call compounding relationships. We met 45 years ago, right? Here we are, we're sitting in the Pen Club, right? Some great company.
For the record, we don't like each other, but that's fine. Just go on. Please go on, Eric.
You got that on camera, right? So, yeah, and so that, going back to it, where I was able to build these relationships early, you're planting seeds, building relationships, they pay handsome dividends if you can genuinely connect with good people who you can mutually bring up. They can bring you up, you can bring them up.
It sounds like ethics, friendship, like core values like that. That's the cornerstone of everything that you've built.
I think ethics are extremely important. I mean, your word is your bond, and if you break it, people will take notice. And even your friends, like if you're not going to do something you said you were going to do, or you say some disparaging remark to get ahead on someone, it's just the sort of thing that comes back to haunt you. So, yeah, I would say those are pieces of it. I mean, you asked more than that, but that's just sort of a short answer.
Well, it's been absolutely astounding having been your friend and associate for my entire life.
The feeling's mutual.
Yeah. Maybe not in my 5 to 7 year old time frame, but I have a lot of really great, meaningful relationships during that time anyway. And having you here is terrific. I think that people are going to see what you have to say, and whether you wanted to be or not, you're a leader. You're forging. You are a maverick in your own way, doing things that people don't understand that you are doing and being successful at. And I'm congratulating you in the highest regard. Thank you very much.
Appreciate that. Thanks for inviting me here. I've been to one of these events before, and I have to say that they're very well done. Credit to the team here in putting on a great event. And I'm looking forward to meeting some more like-minded individuals.
Thank you. That's great.